Welcome to another edition of the Better Than I Found It podcast. I'm Mike McGraw, your host and the men's golf coach at Baylor University. My guest today is Taylor Moore, a 27-year-old member of the Korn Ferry Tour. And Taylor and I discuss a lot of different subjects today, but certainly his time growing up in Edmond as a junior golfer, winning 2 state high school championships for Edmond Memorial. We discuss his career at Arkansas, where he had a great career, which included the SEC Freshman of the Year. And finally, we talk about his journey as a professional since he turned pro in 2016. Taylor's had his share of success, but he's also had some bumps in the road and a major health problem and health crisis that he's overcome. He talks about that today too. But really good guy. I appreciate Taylor coming on today. Hope you enjoyed the listening. My guest today is current Korn Ferry Tour member Taylor Moore. Taylor is a native of Edmond, Oklahoma, and fresh off a 6th place finish in the Club Card Championship on the Korn Ferry Tour just a week or so ago, shooting a 15 under par, 273. He's currently 59th on the Korn Ferry Tour money list, and someone I've known for quite a while. And Taylor, I want to welcome you to the Better Than I Found It podcast today.
Yeah, thanks, Coach. Thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate, our relationship, and it's been quite a few years now as I'm getting older and deep in my pro golf career. But yeah, thanks so much for having me on. I look forward to talking today.
You bet, and you do realize older is a relative term, right? Oh, wow.
I do.
So, but no, that's great. I really have been looking forward to this. You and I talked a month or two ago about possibly coming on for the podcast. You know how these things work. It's sometimes timing or whatever, but I caught you on a week off. So you're not playing this week. Is that correct?
No, I am. Yeah, we actually have a tournament in Destin. So we traveled from Savannah yesterday and to Destin, and going to play practice round this afternoon. So
I misunderstood. I didn't realize I was taking you away from a tournament.
No, you're good. Yeah, I already had breakfast and got a workout in, so I'm all good. Kind of gave myself the morning, and now I'm looking forward to it. So we're all good.
Then I'm going to just assume that the great golf you play this week could kind of be, this podcast may be what puts you over the top this week.
Yeah, absolutely. If that's the case, then we're going to do a podcast every Tuesday. So
that would be great. I would enjoy that. But no, listen, I want to start sort of like I do with a player often, or I want my listeners to kind of get to know you a little bit more. So let's go back to sort of your roots. I mean, you obviously grew up in Edmond, Oklahoma, and you were an athlete. I remember your dad was a baseball player at Arkansas, so you had that kind of in your background. But so tell me about growing up as a little athlete and a golfer in Edmond, Oklahoma.
Yeah. We moved to Edmond. I was in 3rd grade. I was 8 or 9 years old, and my dad had gotten the head baseball coaching job at Edmond Memorial. And so, yeah, being a coach's kid growing up, I was always at the field, always at practice. He would go play golf in his free time with his coaching buddies, and I would tag along, and that's kind of how I got into the game. And yeah, I grew up a multi-sport athlete there in Edmond. Cimarron Middle School right behind where we lived, and played all kinds of sports. Played everything: football, baseball, basketball, golf. Quit football after 7th grade because, as you know, I wasn't the biggest kid out there. But yeah, I continued to play baseball and basketball into high school, and a little bit of everything. So I enjoyed playing all kinds of sports. I enjoyed the competition aspect of a team game as well, and figuring out a way to win. And, I tried to bring that into golf a little bit, and ultimately just fell in love with golf and had to make that tough decision. And, early on in high school.
What year did you make that? I mean, were you about a 9th grader, 10th grader when you made that decision?
Yeah. I played basketball starting my 10th grade season, and then quit kind of right after the season there before spring golf. So.
Well, I remember that spring because the state high school championship was being played at Jimmy Austin in Norman.
Yeah.
And you were just a sophomore, and I don't think you were the favorite that week for sure to win, and you went out and won that championship.
Yeah. I mean, as you know, Edmond junior golf and Oklahoma junior golf, there's just a ton of good players across the state. And yeah, I don't think I was the favorite, but I, had that little chip on my shoulder as as a little kid in golf, and went about my business and ended up winning that week. And that was a lot of fun. I'll never forget that week. It was crazy weather. We had tornadoes, cancel around, and we had to come back out and finish, and there was trees everywhere, and just a crazy deal. But yeah, found a way to get it done. And I think, maybe winning that state championship kind of jump started a lot of my junior golf career.
I think it did. And I remember that tornado as well. And that's kind of life in Oklahoma. You are eventually going to witness a tornado, but you rarely think it would happen in the first round of the state high school championship.
Right.
But so that brings me to kind of the recruiting. You and I, obviously you're one of the best players in the state of Oklahoma, if not the best. And you were a player I was going to recruit. I watched you play basketball in the 7th grade. I remember going to Edmond. I watched you at least once in the 7th grade and once in the 8th grade as I was watching you. And I thought, man, I like the way he handles himself on a basketball court. I really hadn't seen you play that much golf. Honestly, I hadn't. So maybe one junior tournament out at Kicking Bird. So not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I just remember thinking, okay, this is a kid that I want to bring to Oklahoma State. But I also remember knowing that your dad had played baseball at Arkansas. And so if I'm nothing else, I'm pretty aware of competition. And Brad McMakin at Arkansas is a great recruiter, an awesome coach. And I knew he'd have, if not a leg up, he would certainly have an inside look at finding a way to get you to come to Arkansas. So let's talk about the recruiting process a little bit.
Yeah, it was, probably a little bit overwhelming for any 15 or 16-year-old, but it's also, a lot of fun to have that attention. And I don't think, looking back at it now, I don't think you really were able to watch me too much in junior golf, mostly because I was still playing baseball and other sports. I would, sporadically play a OJGT event or a South Central section event. And then, as I committed to golf fully and started playing some tournaments around the country, I remember you going out to Junior World in San Diego when I was, 14 or 15 years old and starting to get my name out there nationally. But yeah, the recruiting process, when you hit September 1, I'm not fully sure how the recruiting rules and dates and things are now, but when you hit September 1, of your, I think it was sophomore, junior year, you start to get a bunch of letters and, a lot of attention, and it was a ton of fun. And then, I think early on I knew it was going to be down to those two schools, Oklahoma State being the traditional powerhouse and having all the, facilities and amenities right there in my backyard, and the great coaching that, you and Coach Bratton brought, and, having Ricky and Peter and all those guys come through right before me, I thought was, definitely something I wanted to be a part of for a long time. And then Arkansas was always kind of my second home growing up. We had football season tickets when I was a kid. We would go to baseball and basketball games when we had an open weekend. And I just loved Fayetteville. Like I said, it was a second home to me. My parents have friends there, and Brad being the guy that he is, as you know, and being the recruiter and kind of like the father figure to me now. I didn't know that then, but it all worked out. And yeah, it was a fun process for sure, but also kind of difficult for a high level 16-year-old kid.
Yeah, you mentioned that Junior World. I was out there to follow the older age group, obviously, but I wasn't, for a couple of days, wasn't finding anything worth watching. They were either committed or just weren't going to fit our program. And I thought, well, I'll go over to the other golf course and watch Taylor. And I was there at 7 a.m. You teed off at 7:10 or something. And Brad walked up, and you would have thought that he was going to die. What are you doing here at this? This is my player. I'm going to sign this. So anyway, so we had a good battle. And, honestly, when I lose a battle like that, I understand it and I get it. And I knew Brad was excited to get you to come to Arkansas. And let's talk a little bit about your career at Arkansas. You literally came out of the blocks firing. You were the 2012, 2013 SEC Freshman of the Year. So you had a really good year as a freshman. That must have been exciting.
Yeah, that was fun. We played quite a hard schedule my first semester there. I remember we went, the preview down at Crabapple. We played Olympia Fields. We played Spring Hill in Minnesota, and then we played Isleworth. And those were like, big boy golf courses. And that was kind of my first time playing real golf with, some tough conditions, firm and fast greens. I mean, I think the hardest course I'd played up to date had maybe been Karsten in the state championship. And but yeah, I got off to a good start in my career. I wasn't necessarily the most physically probably sharp golfer out there, but I knew how to get the ball in the hole. I was probably one-dimensional at the time looking back at it. And after my freshman year, I decided to make some swing changes with Brad and Brian and some of the guys that were on my team at the time, and had a little learning curve my sophomore year. But no, freshman year was great, and got off to a good start in my career, and just was trying to learn a lot from the older guys on the team. The first year or two while I was up there.
When you play a lot of high school golf at local municipal golf courses like Kicking Bird, which is a great municipal golf course, by the way.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
But it's not that difficult. And then you go play Olympia Fields and Isleworth and all these unbelievable golf courses your first semester. I think you finished 4th at Olympia Fields, if I'm not mistaken.
I did. I'm not sure if that was my freshman or sophomore year, but I remember having a really good finish there.
Yeah, I think it was your freshman year. I really do.
Yeah.
Because that was my last year at Oklahoma State, and I remember seeing you as a freshman there. We played the South course, not the North course, and
Gotcha.
You played very well. So you have a good career there. 2-time Golf Week All-American, freshman of the year, as I said, in the SEC. Very successful career, and obviously, like most kids who grow up with a dream, you had a dream you were going to turn professional one day. And once you got your degree, what was your degree in at Arkansas?
Sports management.
Okay. Once you got that degree in 2016, you turned pro. I assume it was the day after the national championship.
Absolutely. We finished up at Eugene Country Club, and I went straight up to Canada right after that. We had that kind of time frame between conference and regionals of like 3 weeks where we had off, and I went and played Canadian Q School during that time just to get some status, to just try to have somewhere to play. That was kind of my goal after college, was try to find somewhere to play immediately and get my feet wet in pro golf and try to get on some sort of tour. And I was able to do that, which I thought was very beneficial, to jumpstart my career. And unfortunately, we didn't make the match play portion. We had a really good week as a team in Eugene and ended up finishing 10th and narrowly missing match play. But yeah, got on a plane that next day, flew from Eugene to Victoria, British Columbia, and turned pro and started to figure it out.
So describe that, because you go straight from playing amateur golf, college golf, you're still sort of a kid, and the next day you're a professional. I mean, was there excitement? Was there fear of the unknown? Were there a lot of self-doubts? I mean, self-belief's an important thing. Did you have it at that time?
Yeah, I think I did. I definitely did, because I had a really good, last semester there at Arkansas. I had a ton of top 5 finishes. I actually got my first win that semester of my college career, which was great. And, you turn pro, you start signing some papers with an agency, you get a contract from Ping, you try to get a little money to start traveling. And then, you get on a plane and go. And it's, I didn't have a caddy at the time. I didn't have, any family traveling with me. I simply went about it, myself, and hired a local caddy there for the week. And, I finished solo second in my first event. And to me, that was like, okay, I know I can do this. I know I'm a great player. I know I can, make a living doing this game. And I had that belief beforehand, but, just some reassurance in your first pro event's always awesome.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's pretty rare to do something like that so early, but it must have given you the confidence to play well that summer. So you go through that summer, you actually finished 3rd on the money list on the Canadian Tour, and that got you some status, or that got you to the final stage of the tour school. Is that correct for the Korn Ferry? Yeah,
I was guaranteed 4 starts after finishing top 5 on that money list, and then I went to final stage that December just to see if I could improve it. Because there's different levels, 4 guaranteed or 8 or 12, or if you win it, you get obviously the full year guaranteed. So it was something to play into, because I had quite a break from the end of our Canadian tour in September all the way until the beginning of Webb in January. So there's an event to play as well.
So you're going to go to tour school there, and you're going to get some status. Is that correct, in that tour school?
Yeah, just to improve. I had the first 4 events guaranteed to start the 17th season on the Webb Tour, and then I actually went to Q School and played really well there and finished solo second. So I bumped from 4 guaranteed events to 12. Also made a little money, which I wasn't aware of entering. I didn't know much about Q school, or, I just knew as a tournament to play, I could improve my status, and signed up and made a little money there as well for finishing solo second, which was good. And then, yeah, about a month after that was the beginning of my career on the web.com tour.
So you must have thought it was pretty easy at this point. This is a breeze. I've got this.
Yes and no. I mean, I won once in 11 events on the Canadian tour, had I think 5 top fives, obviously a great, season, but Dan McCarthy, who's a veteran on, in professional golf, he won 4 times, and I could never catch him. He won 4 times. He finished top 10 every week. And I'm like, man, this guy's great. I don't know why he's on this tour, but he's obviously playing some good golf. So, yeah, obviously trying to stay humble too. I knew I was playing well, but, I knew I needed to keep my head down and foot on the gas pedal, and, could never let up, and just trying to get better each and every day as I started my web career.
You bring up a good point about how good a player he was and what was he doing on that tour. And I think a lot of people tend to get tunnel vision when they look at professional golf, and you see DJ and Rory, and you see all the top players in the world competing every week in these big events. And you forget there are developmental tours, and there's levels just below them where great players are. And they're future great players. Obviously, they're going to play the PGA Tour. They're former PGA Tour players who are trying to hold on to status as long as they can. But I think they've undervalued just how good the players on the Korn Ferry Tour are. It is an amazing amount of talented guys. And you've witnessed that, had a front row seat for 4 years now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, once you get your bearings a little bit and you're out on the tour, you start to see, you got young kids coming out of college, like, myself, when I first got out there. You have, former PGA Tour winners, former major champions that have lost status on the PGA Tour that are back down. And you're like, man, I watched this guy on TV growing up, and he's back out here on the same level I am. And, it's just like, golf is that game where you can, we all put our pants on the same way. And, it's, he might've been better for a certain time in his career, but now we're at the same place teeing it up at the same time. And so it's pretty cool. I mean, to your point, there's so many different, dynamics of people in professional golf in different levels that everybody's looking to have that 4 days that might change their life. So it's pretty cool.
So I guess if we put that, it's a great opportunity and it's an amazing thing you're doing right now, but not all that glitters is gold. In other words, there's some really tough days on the Korn Ferry Tour. So, and I'm not trying to get a woe is me mentality, because you still have a great life. It's amazing. Yes. But there are a lot of challenges and a lot of things that challenge. So I want you to do this for the average casual golf fan. Describe a typical week on the Korn Ferry Tour for you, like the week you're in right now. Other than this podcast, what's typical about this week? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I finished up, Sunday in Savannah, and have our bags packed, and we're going to the next week. So we drove halfway. My caddy and I drove halfway Sunday night. It's about an 8-hour drive from Savannah to Destin, and drove halfway, stopped, hotel, drove the rest of the way on Monday. And yeah, Monday's usually a travel day if you can get out to the course and, get some work in, and, body's feeling good and you feel like you don't need to rest. I typically either rest or just do some short game and putting on Monday afternoons when I get in town, and, get my bearings a little bit and get situated. And then Tuesday is our full practice day. So, playing 9 or 18, depending on if I've played this course in previous years or not. And then Wednesday is our pro-am day. So typically, in years past, it's 18-hole pro-ams. We've gone to a new system of 9 and 9, which I think is great, because the amateurs get, 2 professionals, and we only play 9 holes and kind of get to rest and save our bodies a little bit for teeing it up Thursday. And then, yeah, all your prep work's done, obviously, once Thursday morning hits, and then you're starting your week, and you're just trying to, go about your business and get yourself in a position to contend that week, and, play your 4 rounds of golf, and then you roll over and do it again the following week. So it's a lot of golf for sure. And I think that's the biggest difference in college golf, junior golf to college golf to professional golf, is the amount of golf you're actually playing is quite a lot. In college, you're playing 1 practice round and 54-hole tournaments most of the time, except for your amateur events in the summer and winter break, to playing 6 days a week and, 2 to 2 to 3 practice rounds, depending on when you get in, a pro-am on Wednesday, and then 4 rounds of 18 holes. So you got to figure out a way to take care of your body and learn how your body is, going to be able to play 5-6 weeks in a row if need be. And I think that is a pretty big challenge for some guys coming out of school, and definitely was for me. So I think that is a big part of it, and I have it under control now. And I think that would be pretty good insight for the average golf listener.
One of the things that I preach to our guys is the importance of keeping physically fit, and you obviously do that. So I want to talk to you about that in a second, but also the nutrition factor. So if you're traveling week after week after week and you're eating poorly and not working out, eventually your body's going to say enough.
Yeah,
and so
sure.
I just think it's great how the modern day pro golfer has created himself more of an athlete, because he is training like you do. You had to work out this morning, correct?
Yeah.
Okay? And you've eaten the right foods and you continue to do so. That's why I think your body is going to go for a lot longer than a lot of other people. On that note, one of my current players, Ryan Greider, we played a tournament in San Antonio, and then he left and went and played the tour, qualifying for the Canadian Tour, and finished third. So he's got status.
Awesome. Yeah.
And then he came back and we played a tournament 2 days later in Austin. And he said, Coach, I'm absolutely exhausted. And it was like, wait a second, Ryan, you got to understand, you're getting ready to go do this for a living. And, if you want to play this summer, which he's going to have status, he's going to have to play 3 or 4 weeks in a row in stretches. And that requires a lot of discipline. And another thing that he undervalued, that he doesn't undervalue anymore, is rest. And that's why Monday is a wonderful day for you to catch up on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point of the modern day golfer and nutrition, and, I think you just hit on it. Hydration and sleep are massive. You got to hydrate your body. You have to sleep, you got to figure out if you need 7 or 8 hours or however long, and make sure you're getting that on a consistent basis. And, airplane travel and rental cars and just the dynamic of professional golf. Like, we didn't have to worry about that in college. Brad and Barrett had all that situated. We just needed to show up to the bus on time to go to the airport. And it was, 2 hours later, we were in Cabo playing BA's event. So it's just like, you don't understand when you're in college, you might have an idea of how it is, but you don't fully know until you go through the experience of being a pro golfer and the travel. And, you got to keep up with your body and hydrate and eat right and all that good stuff. So I'm glad Ryan got a little bit of an experience in it for a week.
The quicker you get into a positive routine where it's helpful to your success, the quicker you're going to get through that learning curve. And I think that's important for young kids to know. And it would be better if our college players would train like that more often without coaches having to try to make them do that. So a typical week you've just described. Tell me this: who are you traveling with, like on the Korn Ferry? Because I know that it does behoove a player to have somebody there that's going through the same thing he is. Who are some of your friends you travel with on the tour?
Yeah, I travel a little bit with Braden Thornberry, who's a good college player at Ole Miss, former number 1 ranked player. Davis Riley played at Alabama. We all live in Dallas, so we typically are on the same flights. We might share a car or split a hotel room some weeks. And Kevin Doherty, who played at Oklahoma State, we travel a little bit together and play some practice rounds. So I'd say those 3 guys are kind of the main 2 or 3 guys I hang out with
and those
more recently. So
you guys play and practice a lot together at Merritt up in Dallas?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So we have some good games while we're home. Playing with Will Zalatoris, who's on fire right now, got his tour card locked up and playing good. So we have a good competitive, atmosphere at home as well, which I think goes a long way.
Yeah, I think that's great that you also develop good relationships. And the main thing is you're all going through the same thing. And you're sort of at that same level of golf, all of you doing different levels of type of, play at that point, but you all have the same goal in mind, and that is to win on the PGA Tour and to be a great player one day. So I think that's great. Thank you for giving us just sort of a typical day in the life of a Korn Ferry PGA Tour player. But I want you to now tell me about a not so typical day in 2019 where you really experienced a major health crisis, and also the fateful decision you made on the way to the airport. So tell me the whole story beginning to end, if you would.
Yeah, so we had just started our 2019 season and we played 5 events. We had our international stretch and then went to Sarasota, Florida, And we had just finished that week, and we had about a month off until our next event in Lafayette. And in that time frame, as we get some bad weather from time to time, early spring, and I decided to go out to Scottsdale and go to Ping and do some work out there and play some golf with some friends out there and just get some good weather before we went to Lafayette. And I was on a 5-day trip, and that last day while I was out there, we had gotten back from dinner. I was packing up my stuff and started not to feel great, but I didn't think much of it and went to sleep, woke up about 1 a.m. and started throwing up. So I assumed I had food poisoning from dinner, just, typical. Threw up for 8 hours straight, got it out of my system. I moved my flight back. It was supposed to be at 10 a.m. I moved it back to about 2 just to give myself some time to get situated. And I still wasn't feeling great. I was like, what's going on? Like, my stomach is very, very sore. Like, it's not really, great and all this kind of stuff. So I loaded up the car. I'm like, I'm just going to go to the airport, suck it up. And I'm sitting at this light, and I'm like left to get on the highway to go to the airport. And I see in the distance, there's like this ER urgent care. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go get some nausea medicine. Like, I just don't want to embarrass myself. I don't want to throw up on the plane all over everybody. I'm just going to run down here and get situated and go in there, and they start doing your vitals and all, typical protocol stuff, and tell them what's going on. And I told them my symptoms. They start poking around in my stomach, and they're like, you might have appendicitis. Like, we don't want you to get on a plane. If your appendix is rupturing, let's just run and do a CT scan on you real quick just to, check that box, and we'll get you out of here. And, go do the CT scan. And about an hour later, the nurse walks in and goes, well, I hate to give you bad news, but you're going to be in here for a little while. I was like, excuse me? I was like, what do you mean, sir? And he's like, yeah, your right lung is 50% collapsed. You might want to make a few phone calls, maybe tell your parents, or if you have some friends out here, but you're about 20 minutes away from having a tube in your chest, and you're going to be in here for a couple of days. And so it was obviously a huge shock to me, and even telling the story gives me some chills. And I'm very lucky to be here. They said that if I would have gotten on that plane with a collapsed lung, it would have been a tricky situation. And I'm glad I listened to my intuition and went to the ER. And so yeah, my parents came out. I spent 3 days in the hospital there in Scottsdale. My lung inflated back up, and I was advised to get a follow-up appointment in Dallas. So I had to drive back from Scottsdale to Dallas. Got a follow-up appointment. The next day we got back, and my parents headed back up the road to Edmond. As you know, my mom's still teaching, my dad's in a different business, but mom had school, so she had to get back and go. And they were up in Oklahoma. I went to my follow-up appointment on my own, and my lung had collapsed again. And I did the x-ray. Doctor comes out, says, dude, you need to go to the hospital. Lungs collapsed again. You might need surgery and all this stuff. So called parents, they come back down, and I spent a week in the hospital. I had to have surgery to, permanently fix whatever, I had a spontaneous pneumothorax, which is just a genetic condition. And it's just a random chance that your lung collapses, and I had the perfect, low body fat, shape of lungs, all these perfect kind of attributes for that freak thing to happen. And my professional golf career was put on hold there for about 4 or 5 months as I recovered. And I was obviously down. I wasn't playing golf, but kind of gave me a new perspective on life a little bit. I was fortunate to be alive. I was fortunate to be surrounded with the people, that loved me and cared for me. And that was my first kind of, big wow moment in my life, really, where I wasn't able to do the thing that I love the most, and definitely put life in perspective for me real quick.
I bet you came back with a lot of motivation and a lot of excitement and energy when you finally did come back. What was the first event you came back to?
Yeah, I came back for the Rex Hospital Open in Raleigh. I think it was mid-June. My lung collapsed early March, and I was back mid-June. So yeah, I looked to other athletes that had been through injuries in other sports, and how they recovered. I didn't have an ACL injury. I didn't have a major back surgery where I was out for a year. I had a condition that I was going to be able to get back in 4 to 5 months and play. And my main goal was to not only come back healthy, obviously with my lung, but come back healthy, come back mobile, be able to move again and swing at the speed that I did beforehand. And not get injured while I was traveling and things like that. So I wanted to make sure I checked all those boxes before I got back out on the road. And I think I was able to do that for the most part. And yeah, just so excited to get back out and playing. I played 8 events the rest of that season and had a top 10 and a couple of top 20s. And, you go 5 months without playing a game that I've played every, I had some time off in, junior golf in college, obviously, but never 5 months. So just nice to see that it's not actually going to go away, and I was still able to do it and be able to go out there and compete at a high level.
Well, and it's great that you're playing. Here it is another 2 years later. And I did look at your statistics. You are as far as driving the golf ball, you're the 8th ranked player in the Korn Ferry Tour overall driving. So you obviously are a really good ball striker still. You have a lot going for you there. I don't think you're feeling any of the after effects from that surgery, are you? I mean,
honestly, it took me until this last off season to get fully healthy from it. We started 2020, and as everybody's life was, put on pause. And so I kind of had 2 major incidents happen that were completely out of my control, with my lung collapsing and then COVID back to back. So I essentially had 2 years off of professional golf with some events thrown in between, but I never had, full season rhythm, traveling, this and that. And so I really took this last off season to get fully healthy from my lung injury. I hired a mental, performance coach just to help guide me through that. And, really got my mental health in order and really got, myself back a little bit, which I thought was very, very important. And had a great off season with that. And then, obviously started, our 21 season a month ago and back at it. So I'm all good now.
Well, it's great to see you back playing. And I know you still have all those goals and dreams that we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. But along those lines, so you're still a really young guy. You're 27. And, you've been playing pro golf for a few years, but you're still a young person. Let's face it.
Yeah.
And around you in the world of golf, a lot of really young, great players have emerged. So you've got last year, the obvious Colin Morikawa, Matthew Wolff, and Victor Hovland, kind of all 3 came out and got status on the PGA Tour and then won multiple times and have won a major and all of that. And Will Zalatoris, who had no status at the beginning of 2019, is now a full member of the PGA Tour, finishing top 10, top 15 every single week. So,
in the Masters.
I mean, that's not unheard of, but what those 4 people have done is pretty unique. And so you're on a little bit different path and a little bit different journey than them. So I'm going to ask you not a hard question, but just a straightforward question. Does that inspire you when those guys do that? Are you jealous? Is that something that inspires you to want to be better, or how has it affected you?
Yeah, I think, it's obviously really cool what they've done. You're not trying to get discouraged by their results. I think once I start worrying about other people and what they're doing and how their careers are going, I think I'm doing myself a disservice at that point. I only know Will personally, and I'm a friend of his. We grew up playing a lot of junior golf together. We play at the same club in Dallas. So I'm happy for him. I'm excited for him and his golf career. But I don't really want to let it, affect me and my journey and take away from, my path and what I want to do. I think, me personally, I'm inspired by great golf always, from anybody. Growing up watching Tiger and Phil and all the guys I grew up watching, and, even Jordan Spieth was a great junior golfer, great amateur player. And he was kind of the first one, I thought, with how today's game is, to go from college, get some sponsor invites, played a few web events, but he got out on tour his way. John Rahm kind of did it, right after I got out in pro golf. And then you had these 3 guys come out of, 2 Oklahoma State and 1 out of Cal, pretty much come out and essentially get right on the PGA Tour. So I think it's great. I think it's great for the game of golf as a whole. But for me personally, I don't really want to get distracted by that and affect my game.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, because honestly, that's what I expected you to say. You're on your own journey. This is your path, and it's going to conclude some completely different experiences for sure.
Right.
So I'm inspired by those 4 guys. I know that.
Yeah.
And I know them all personally. And I think what they're doing is showing us that we often put ceilings on ourselves, or, we put a lid on
Yeah.
things. And
Yeah.
I think they just blew the lid right off the top of it there. They are doing amazing things, but so are you. If you think about where you are in pro golf, and I know you're on this journey, but how many people get to say they're a full member of the Korn Ferry Tour out of all the people that want to play professional golf or want to play golf?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
There's, a couple, 150, 200 full-time Korn Ferry cards. And I know there's, seniors on your team that would trade places with me right now and never play another event at Baylor. And so I just, I have to be thankful and have some gratitude in where I'm at currently, but also have, which, that I do have my internal motivation that I'm not done yet in this game. And, I'm going to go on a certain path and keep my head down and keep plugging along.
well, and that attitude is kind of what drew me to you in recruiting. I could see the competitiveness in you. I could see the drive that you had, and you had it on the basketball court. I never saw you play baseball or football, but I did see you play basketball. And honestly, I saw it when we competed against you when you were in college. I saw it a lot.
Yeah.
So I think that type of attitude will win out in the long run. And so what? You've had a few bumps in the road. That surgery was no fun, but you're probably better because of it.
Yeah.
And COVID-19, definitely no fun. But I think all of us who've taken the right attitude about it are realizing we're going to get on the other side of this. But so that I do want to ask you about that. So how big an effect, other than the lack of tournaments to play in for a while, how has that changed the way you travel, the way you train, prepare, whatever? Is any of that different because of COVID?
Yeah, I think, we started back in June, so 4-ish months after the world kind of shut down for everybody. And yeah, I think it's kind of, you got to have a mask everywhere you go. Essentially, you have to be, a little bit more aware of your surroundings. And I think the PGA Tour and Korn Ferry Tour have done a great job in their protocols for us, and constant testing, especially when we first came back out on tour, and the use of hand sanitizers and things like that. So yeah, it's been definitely a different dynamic, especially the travel has been the biggest part, with the mask and getting used to that. And, actually out on the golf course, it was a little bit weird at first. Not that the Korn Ferry Tour has, the fan base and fans out that the PGA Tour does, but, we're out there Saturday, Sunday of a tournament, and it feels like a Monday practice round. Nobody's out. So it took a little bit to adjust as far as, playing again too. So yeah, definitely different dynamic when we first came back, but I think we're all kind of used to this new normal now, and I feel like we're kind of phasing our way back to the old normal a little bit in some regards, which I think is a good thing too.
Well, and I think you mentioned something earlier that I think is important in any profession, any industry, in any situation, and that is gratitude. I mean, you're so thankful to be playing professional golf for a couple of reasons. One, that you're just getting to play. I mean, that COVID didn't take it away completely. But two, you've been through that health crisis. And I think gratitude goes a long way in helping us achieve our dreams, because as you are going toward that goal, you're thankful all along the way.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad I did what I did this off season and hiring a mental performance coach. And, that was one of the main things we talked about. Is I was in a place where I was frustrated. I was frustrated by the injury. I was frustrated by COVID. I was, why I don't have my PGA Tour card yet, this and that, kind of feeling sorry for myself a little bit. And in these conversations I had with her, and, got to the bottom of it. And I was like, I want to enjoy the game like I did as a 14-year-old kid at the Kicking Bird putting green. That's what golf is about. That's where I play my best golf, is when I'm in that space. And worked my way through it. And yeah, just super thankful to obviously be where I'm at now.
That's a great perspective. I appreciate that, Taylor. So let's talk about your long-term goals and dreams. I mean, you've had them since you were a little boy, and obviously they've probably adjusted and moved around a little bit as things have happened and as you've gotten older. But I mean, you probably wanted to play in the NBA at one time, didn't you?
I did. It was MLB for a little bit, then NBA, and then, finally settled on the PGA Tour. So still with that one.
When Kevin Tway used to come to the Oklahoma State golf camp, he would always tell me, Coach, I'm going to play in the NBA. I said, no, Kevin, you're going to play the PGA Tour. No, I'm going to play in the NBA. I said, Kevin, you don't play defense. All you do is stand out there and shoot trays. So
Right.
you got to play some defense. And he, I just didn't think he would play the league. But anyway, he finally came around, and so did you. You're a golfer.
Yeah, exactly.
But so your long-term dreams and goals, what are they? I mean, what do you really think you can get out of this career as you're going in this journey?
Yeah, I think, on the golf course, my goal's always been to be a top 5 player in the world and be there for a while. I really think I can get there. I think that, I have the physical ability to do that for sure. And I think that with my current, mental state of mind and where I'm at now, I think, I can definitely do that in the future, in the near future. And, looking at a friend, like we just talked about, Will Zalatoris, and what he's done, it's definitely possible. And, that's been my goal since I was a high school kid and fully committed to golf, was to be a top 5 player in the world one day. And that's what I'm here to do in this game. And yeah, obviously there's some steps along the way in the immediate future. More short-term goals are to finish top 10 on the points list here on the Korn Ferry Tour. That would put me in a really good spot, going into the next PGA Tour season. So yeah, those are the 2 main goals now. And then, off the course, I have a soft spot for kids and junior golf and developing, our youth, and especially in this game. And I think I get that from my parents being teachers and coaches growing up, and really just trying to give back to Oklahoma junior golf. And I've been able to do a little bit of that and hosting the Oklahoma State, junior golf championship, which is actually out at Kicking-Bird the last few years. And just trying to pour some support, pour some money back into Oklahoma junior golf, just because it's paved this path for me and given me so much. I would love to do the same, but at a higher level for the next generation to come.
Absolutely. I love that spirit that you have right there. And a good friend of both of ours, Maury Rose, who has run the Oklahoma Junior Golf Tour for a long time, to me is a hero for Oklahoma junior golfers. Just what he's done with that tour to allow kids a place to compete. And you wouldn't have had any place to compete in the fall in those days. And he gave you a place to play on Saturdays and Sundays. So I think that's great. And I think it's wonderful that you want to give back as well. So did you ever win the state junior? I think you did, didn't you?
Coach, I want to say that I won the stroke play portion, but I don't think I ever won the match play. I think your Oklahoma State Cowboy, Ian Davis, beat me in the finals when I reached it.
Well,
so,
I didn't talk to Ian about that.
Yeah, he beat me pretty handedly, 5-4, I believe, at Kicking-Bird at my home track. So,
yeah, Ian was pretty good at Kicking-Bird, I got to say.
He was
but,
great.
No,
player.
I appreciate the goals you have and the dreams, and I fully expect that one day you'll get there. And I've enjoyed watching. I'm really thankful for our friendship and the relationship we have that we've kept from the day we started recruiting till to this moment. So I appreciate
Absolutely.
that. I'm always a fan, always looking forward to. In fact, I thought you were taking a week off here, but I'm glad you're not. I'll watch for the results this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And same to you in our relationship. I always appreciate the text and the insight and the check-ins and everything that you do for me, especially with your busy schedule and all that you do for the game and your team and the golf community. So thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for that, Taylor. And I just want to say thanks again for coming on the podcast. I think people got a good insight to what it's like to play the Korn Ferry Tour and just what a week-to-week schedule would look like. And thank you for your inspirational story about your comeback as well.
Yeah, thanks so much. I appreciate you having me on, and always looking forward to listening to the future guests. So thanks again.
All right. Well, best of luck this week, Taylor. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.